Hello lovely people, how are you all doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm boiling, oh my goodness. This weather, I don't know what to wear when I go out each day. One looks at the forecast and I note, oh, it's 13, 14 degrees, which is kind of chilly. So I put a load of layers on, but then as soon as I'm in the sunshine, I'm boiling, and it's quite humid at the moment. So yeah, boiling. And also I've literally just got back in, and I wanted to share some shopping with you because we haven't shared some shopping for ages. And it's very eclectic. So one of these things actually came by post this morning. The rest is what I've just hauled back with me. So we need to go back in time for a moment, into last week. Actually, it sort of began before last week. Do you remember I mentioned that Richard and Paul have given me their spare dictaphone? Brilliant. Now it takes a couple of AAA batteries. My camera, my stills camera, takes a couple of AA batteries. Otherwise I don't really have much use for batteries around the place. But with the camera, my goodness, I've been getting through batteries. Now I used to have some rechargeable batteries and the charger pack that they all go into. Oh, but it died a death about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and I keep meaning to replace it, and then it's kind of expensive, and I think, well, I'll just buy a few batteries, it's cheap. Anyway, it's a false economy, of course, in the long run. But because the guys gave me their dictaphone, it's got inside it, they've left a couple of their rechargeable batteries in, so I thought, you know what, that's it, bite the bullet. I'll buy a recharging unit and some rechargeable batteries. High time. So, going all around the houses already. I didn't want to buy online. I've talked many times about, I like the interaction, I like the face-to-face with the shopkeeper. Also then, if something goes wrong, like that palaver I had with the printer because I bought it online, you end up having to post something back and then you have to wait for them to get back to it. It's all a palaver. So I really wanted to see if I could buy it locally. So I went to my immediate local area. There's a few shops here, nah. But then I needed to go to see the doctor. Oh, and hence, you might spot it. Yeah, I've just had some bloods done this morning, so I've been back down there. But we're back to face-to-face appointments. Oh, I can't tell you what a difference that made. I went to see the doctor about one thing, but so I had an afternoon. Are you sitting comfortably? Because I'm going to go all around the houses. I had an afternoon appointment, I think it was like 3:30, and I knew full well that by 3:30 in the afternoon, surgery would be overrunning. So I took a book. I mean, I'd take a book anyway. And I can't wait to tell you about that book. And sure enough, it was overrunning by about half an hour. Fine, I was tucked into my book, loving it. When the doctor came out and called my name, I was thinking, no, don't call me yet, I'm just at a really good bit of the book. Anyway, I got up, and obviously I've been sitting still for half an hour or so, 40 minutes actually, because stupidly I arrived early for my appointment. And he saw the way I was walking, he was like, crikey, you're in a state. Anyway, so the thing I went to see him about, we didn't even get to discuss because he was more concerned about, the state I'm in. And that's when the whole Achilles thing. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you about that is because it's right at the far end of my bit of town. It's too far for me to walk these days, so I take the bus. So I thought, well, you know what, if I'm going to pay for the bus down there, while I'm there, I might as well try and look into this battery charger, because where the doctor's is, it is right on the edge of town, as it were. We've got one of these big out-of-town shopping areas, so there's a massive Sainsbury's It's one of their saver centres. For anyone outside of the UK, Sainsbury's is one of our supermarkets, you know, where you go for your grocery shopping. But there's also this sort of like, you know, big DIY places, builders merchant, that sort of thing, and a shop called Curry's, which again, for anyone outside of the UK, that's at one of our electronics stores. Everything from, you know, kettles, toasters, blenders, right up to fridges, freezers, TVs, computers, cameras, anything electronic. So I thought, brilliant. Saw the doctor, got all that bit done, then popped across the road into this out-of-town retail area, went into Curry's to say, do you have rechargeable batteries and battery packs? They don't. So annoying. Well, they had one packet of rechargeable batteries amongst all these different batteries, but no recharger pack. So you can buy the batteries, but you can't buy anything to charge them up with. Went into the Sainsbury's, because it's a big one. Exactly the same with them. You can buy the batteries, but not the actual charger machine. Anyway, I thought, you know what, never mind, I'm going to have to go online. So I had a little look around online and was able to go direct to a company. So I got myself, it's the charging unit, and 4 AA's and 4 AAA batteries, and that should be more than sufficient for me. So when 2 are in use, 2 can be charged up ready. And I think it was £19.99, 20 quid. So I thought, you know what, I'd get through 20 quid's worth of batteries in a few months. So brilliant. And what it means is I can charge up the AAA's, pop them into the dictaphone and give those batteries that are in it back to the lads, because it's theirs. So yay, that's just come today. No idea, you know, how good or not it will be, but I'm glad to have it. And just to mention as well, in terms of, because my shop this week is more like 30 quid. Oh! But we're at that time of year where, so I normally allow myself £12 a week for shopping, and that's for everything. That's food, clothing, you name it. That's my budget. But by this time of year, because there's so much coming from the garden, I get to a stage where I don't need to go shopping. Sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 3 or 4 weeks. I've got a stock of rice, I've got plenty of oil. What else would I buy? I've got lentils, I've got all those different things that I would normally buy. And for instance, I'm back on porridge in the morning for breakfast now. So I was buying oat milk. I was buying it from Lidl for 85p. But I started making my own oat milk now from the oats that I use for the porridge. I thought I'd written down how much. Anyway, it works out, a litre of my own homemade oat milk works out about 4p. It's crazy. So I'm not even buying oat milk now. Anyway, the point is, so there can be a few weeks on the top where I don't do any shopping at all, which means then, if I do have an expensive shop, I can do it. So I'm glad to have that now, and obviously it's much more in keeping for me in terms of reusing. Now, we come to today. So I've had to go back for some bloods to be done today. Bless her, she apologised because she took a lot of bottles. I think there were 9 bottles in the end. But yeah, glad that's underway. I don't know when results will happen. It's okay. Everything's okay. So in the meantime, I had a little bit of a shopping list developing in my head. One of the items I wanted goes with this. Look at that. That colour. Which window can I show you? Can you see the colour? Isn't it? Oh, calendula oil. So you can see all the calendula petals have settled it. I mean, look how orange the oil is. It's beautiful. So this went in for infusion at the end of August, I think it was. And I remember at the time saying, oh, I better not forget, do I write? Because sometimes I'll actually put a little sticker on the top with the date that I started the infusion. But I said to myself at the time, oh, it's going to be around about the end of September, beginning of October. And lo, here we are at the beginning of October. So it's high time to start making some balm. Now, in the meantime, I've had 2 requests for some from friends. So, because it's not something I sell. This is for me. Now, both of these friends, they are special cases because one of them has cancer and one of them is in remission. So, bearing that in mind, I want my ingredients to be as pure and wonderful as possible. So, with the balm, I will also use beeswax and coconut oil. So, the coconut oil. Now, I wanted to buy organic. That's what I mean. I want it to be as pure as possible for these 2 friends. So, I haven't bought any for ages. And because I was going all the way down to the surgery again this morning for the bloods, it's right near that massive Sainsbury's Saver Centre. So I thought, oh, I'll go in there and see what sort of coconut oil they have, see if they have organic. But before I go, and this is something else I've mentioned quite a lot with shopping, is this thing of shop around, have a look, do a bit of research. You know, sometimes it can take a little bit of time if you're going in lots of different shops to do your research. And it can also take a bit of time if you do your weekly shop from 4 or 5 different shops. You know, like our grandmas used to before the advent of supermarkets. But it's so worth it. It was definitely worth it. Where's my receipt? I've got the receipt there. So before I went down to that part of town, I went in my local, I'm going to sneeze, in my local area. Excuse me. Yeah, I went to, we've got a Tesco, which again, it's one of our supermarkets, but it's Tesco Metro. It's like a little mini one. And I'm sure the prices there are more expensive than a regular Tesco, and I'm sure the offers aren't the same or aren't as good. So I went in there and they had an organic coconut oil, exactly the same size as this one, which is 200 grams, and it was £4.75. The non-organic was a bit bigger and was, I think it was about £3, but it was quite a lot bigger. So in money terms, it was probably more like £4.75 and £2. But I didn't want the non-organic anyway, but I thought, oh, the £4.75 one was on offer for £4.15, so I thought, oh, that's not too bad. Next door, we've got our Turkish market, and that's where I've bought coconut oil from in the past. And again, I mean, they've got some really big non-organic ones, like a really big one for £5, which is really economical, if you don't mind it's not organic. But they also had an organic one, and I think theirs was £5. So I thought, okay, it's going to be around £4.55. I'll bear in mind the Tesco's one is £4.15. And I'm going to get on the bus, I'm going to go and do my bloods and go and check out Sainsbury's. By the way, something else to show you, purchase, was from the Turkish market, because there's something else I wanted to check out while I was in there. Anyway, so long story short, I told you we're going all around the houses. It's like you're coming on the bus with me and then we're coming home. Anyway, this in Sainsbury's, in the big one, it wasn't on offer. This was the regular price. I was gobsmacked. I should have bought 2. Oh, I'm a dozy girl. £2.60. Amazing. And if you want that in dollars, well, at the moment, the way the pound is, your dollars, it's almost like $1 a pound. So a little bit more, maybe $3. That's unbelievable for organic, cold pressed, virgin coconut oil. And what pleased me no end, it's in a glass pot. A lot of the others were in plastic. What am I going to do with that? So this is a great size pot for, a pot of my own balm. I mean, I probably wouldn't make that much, but it's a really useful size pot. So I'll keep the pot, and that will be reused. That'll be used over and over again in future for other things. Even things like when I freeze my beans, not beans for eating, my beans for seed saving. Once they're thoroughly dry, I freeze all of my seeds for 3 days to just make sure there's no bugs, and I freeze them in glass jars, food grade glass jars, because they can stand freezing. But anyway, so I'm chuffed. So £2.60, bargain. I mean, it's pretty much half the price that I've seen anywhere else. So for any of you who are on the hunt for organic, cold pressed, virgin coconut oil in a reusable glass pot, because pots like this, they cost like 50p or more, don't they, if you were buying them for jam or cosmetics making. So there we go. You could almost say it's £2, £2 and then 60p for the pot. So I'm chuffed with that. Now, let's come back up the road. Let's come back towards home. I went into the Turkish market. Rattle, rattle, rattle. The other day when I was showing you around the garden, look, we've known for weeks now that the beans are a bit of a write-off. I think Paul's had it even worse than me. I'm not sure. I think, has he left? He might have one row up still. I'm not sure. But it was Paul who'd mentioned looking for gigantes beans, not for seed, but for eating. And he'd found some online, and it was £15 for a kilo. Look what I found. I can't believe it. So this is a kilo. It wasn't cheap. This was £4. But I reckon, because they're such a great chunky monkey of a bean, a really good meaty bean, I reckon you'd only want 100 grams in a portion, possibly even less. So it's about 40p. Anyway, for a specialist bean, I thought, Now, it's all, I don't know, it's all in foreign. It's a Turkish market. I did then flip them over, and I saw on the back it says Lima beans. Now, the thing with gigantes is, outside of Greece, a lot of people call them Lima beans, a lot of people call them giant beans. You'll see them called just quite simply giant white beans or large white beans, sometimes Lima beans. So I'm not sure if these are actual gigantes. I mean, they look it. Or if it's just a giant white bean. I'm not sure, but anyway, I'm going to give this to Paul to experiment, to play with, or should I say Richard and Paul, because they both cook. It does say on the back, soak for 12 hours. They're a big bean. And also, whilst I was there, this is my little bag for loose veggies. I bought 6 garlic. You might think, Vivi, are you mad? You've got, did I say how much they were? Sorry. £3.99, £4 for a kilo. Put it this way, that beats the £15 a kilo that Paul saw. But anyway, I think the bottom line with this is, maybe they're not actual gigantes from Greece, but maybe they'll cook the same, and therefore we can use them in our Greek recipes, like I love gigantes and chard, a sort of a gigantes chard casserole. It's a sort of version of gigantes plaki. Gigantes plaki. Anyway, sorry if I've offended any Greek friends out there. Garlic. Why have you bought garlic, Vivi? You've got loads from your harvest. And it's true, I have still got... I'm going to have to blow my nose after that sneeze. Hang on. That's better. I don't know where that little sneeze came from. Yeah, so... Yes, I have got a lot of garlic. I've still got a load left. I'm getting through it. I'm really enjoying it. And I'm not... I think it might just do me for a year. I think it will just about last me, you know, until... It's usually sort of about May time that it gets harvested. So it should last through until then. But there's not enough there for me to plant another lot of garlic now for next year. So yeah, I'm going to do the thing is, I thought I wouldn't plant any garlic, but it's that time of year. It's this, I have this impulse, this compulsion in October when certain harvests come out. I always, every year for 10 years, I followed them with... One bed gets followed with garlic, the other bed gets followed with broad beans. They're not here, they're in the granny trolley waiting to go to the garden. I can't get to the end of October and not plant garlic and broad beans. It would be too discombobulating. So I'm going to do garlic, but this year I'm not going to be using my own garlic as my sort of starter seed, if you like, shop bought, which I've done in the past. You know, you can spend a small fortune on garlic from the specialists. You know, friends have done it and not get the best harvest. This way I'm spending, I don't know how much I'll have to work it out, but, you know, considerably small amount to get a garlic harvest. Now, that leads me on to a little bit of something else about the garden, because obviously the plan is to give it up next year. And the broad beans, actually they're about a similar sort of time. Broad bean harvest, beginning of May, end of April, beginning of May, and garlic harvest towards the end of May, by which time officially I should have given the garden up. So look, it can go one of two ways. Either I have given the garden up by then and the newbie, they'll have something to harvest straight away, and won't that encourage them to keep going? Or there's another possibility, bear with me. One of the reasons I've been talking about giving up the garden, I mean, I can't do it anymore, it's killing me, my legs, backwards and forwards all the time. But also I'm hoping to put my flat on the market in probably March, possibly into April. By that time of the year, normally, the flat will be covered in a mess of pots and seedlings everywhere. They're just everywhere, and it just looks so cluttered. It makes the flat look small. There's no way I want to show the flat with all those pots everywhere. No way. So I'm not going to be starting a garden, you know. It's the most important thing for me is to present this flat at its absolute best. Present it at its best and hopefully sell it for the best possible price, and hopefully in terms of chain, of me finding somewhere that person needs to find their onward property and all that kind of stuff. The whole process, in my experience, I don't know if things have changed a bit, but also with friends recently, it can take about 3 months from the moment of I find a property and they say yes, and someone finds my property and they say yes, and hopefully those two things coincide. So best case scenario, I think the earliest I'd actually be leaving this flat would be possibly July, might even be later. So this is all knock on. One has to sort of think backwards, think forwards, then think backwards again. My rent, the next rent for the garden is due on the 1st of April. So if I haven't moved by the 1st of April, which I won't have done, I will have to empty the garden shed and all my bits and bobs of kit, all the beam poles, my wheelbarrow, I'd have to get all of that stuff out and have it here. I mean, can you imagine it? And then I've got all that clutter of gardens. I mean, I just can't fit it in here. And then I'm back to square one of how can I show my flat and present my flat in the best possible way if it's full of filthy garden junk. So I've talked this through with a really good friend, and I think this is the best way to plan things, and I'm trying to smooth out all the various transitions I'm going to have next year, is pay for the plot for another year. Because look, if I took all the stuff out of the shed and put it into storage, it would cost about 50 quid a month for storage. The rent for the year is 50 quid. So even if I only stay 1 month, that's the same as putting it into storage. I'm not going to... Is it starting to rain again? I'm not going to dump all that stuff because there's hundreds of pounds worth of kit there. I don't want to dump it all and then start again. I can't afford that. And also there's sentimental attachment to all of my kit. So yeah, the plan is pay for a whole another year of the garden. Not necessarily stay another year, but pay for another year. Keep it tidy. But you know, what I'm thinking is do a very, 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 very low maintenance garden. For example, just have the whole garden be squash plants, because I don't need to dig the bed to put squash plants in. It's mostly when I'm digging the beds, it's so I can make a fine tilth and a fine drill to put seeds in. No, none of that. I'm not doing any digging next year. That's one of the things that was killing me. Also with, say, all the seedlings I would start here normally, pretty much from the last week of April to the end of May, I'm going to the garden every single day with bags of seedlings. Every blooming day. No, don't want that. I'm not interested in walking to that garden every day. Probably at most twice a week, at most. So with things like, if I do squash, I'll have a think about it, but anything I do, I'll start it at the garden. I ain't starting anything here and lugging it. So, you know, start things off in the cold frame. Really low maintenance. I can keep it tidy and neat for eventually when someone else does come on site. And hopefully within that year, definitely within the year, I have to move. But let's say by some miracle, everything goes well. Let's say I move in July. That means then move house, get that kind of nightmare out of the way, because it's a big deal, and it's going to be a big deal for me because I've been here for 20 years. Is it 20 years? What year? 19 years. By this Christmas I'll have been here 19 years. So it's going to be a huge upheaval physically and emotionally. So yeah, get that out of the way in July, and I'm not worrying about the garden before that. Low maintenance. And maybe if it's really super low maintenance like that, I can visit once a week to keep it tidy, also to enjoy it before I move, because otherwise, if I don't move for ages and then I've got no garden, no outdoor space at all, it'll just make my heart cry. So yeah, keep it low maintenance, do a once a week visit, that's all, I can manage that. Do a once a week visit to maintain it, keep it tidy, and then get the house move out of the way, July, August maybe, and then come September or October, and I will keep the committee informed all the time of what I'm up to. But if it looks like, I'm now settled at home, I've unpacked, I'm okay, now is the time to hire a lass and a van to get all my garden stuff over to my new property and garden. And then the society can get someone new into my plot. And if that's about October, it's a great time of year to take a plot on, because you've got all winter to plan, and if someone wants to come and change things, it gives them the whole winter to change how the plot is. So yay! I think that's a really smart way for me to handle all the changes next year. For me to, because it would be quite a lot of balls to keep in the air at once. I will have the pleasure of the garden once a week or so, and the pleasure of the company of my friends, like the girls next door. I'm really going to miss the girls next door when I'm not there. So all of that, I think this is a really great, and it's a fab plan. So yeah, very, very low maintenance though, and no seed starting here, no. So it might be that, there won't be any tomatoes and what have you, but a little bit of something. Good. So yeah, garlic and broad beans for next year. And if, like I said, if by some miracle I've already moved by then, and given up the plot, well, how lovely that the new person gets, a ready-made garden when they arrive. I would have loved that when I arrived, because it wasn't a ready-made garden when I took it over. Anyway, lovelies, that is enough rattling on from me today. A bit of an eclectic shopping bag and a little bit of garden and house move news. Yes, anything to do with the house and the move, I'm going to keep you up to date on that. Of course I am, because it's going to be a crazy, exciting, mostly exciting, sometimes daunting time. So I will keep you abreast of that as and when there is anything to let you know. Alright, lovelies, I will see you all again really soon, I hope. But in the meantime, please look after yourselves. Be kind to other human beings. Cheerio.